G'day, welcome to the deep dive. I've got two very well-established WA men to either side of me. We'll start with Terry Leighton, who's joining us once again. He's been with us for the previews. He's now here to deep dive into the card. That was Kingston's Town Classic Day. Terry Leighton.
Good to be here, Pete. Lovely to see you again, as always.
Absolutely. And to my right, BJ Ryan, Thoroughheads on Twitter, one of the more prominent members of the WA media in terms of independent. He's been doing some work with Best Bets for ages now, but it's great to have BJ on board, who's probably really well versed in the handicapping side of things. Does a lot of work throughout the racing industry that goes unheard of, but we thought we'd get him on and let him say a few things in public. So BJ, good to have you on.
Thanks, Pete. Always a pleasure catching up with you fellas, talking West Australian horse racing. We're all very passionate about it and looking forward to seeing what we can come up with in our review of the Masters series, which just finished on Saturday.
Yeah, exactly right. We're going to go through in a couple of parts. We'll start off with a review of the Kingston Town Classic meeting, basically typical deep dive as you would have seen here before, go through some of the wagering, go through some of the data that's come through as well, potentially a new star that was unveiled there on the day, and then we'll get into another couple of parts of the deep dive where we really go into, I guess, a better look at WA racing, where it's at the moment, and then also where it might be heading over the next year. So for our interstate viewers, I hope you stick around and jump into that, because it is quite interesting in terms of not only the WA betting landscape, but also what is also impacting on the current landscape over there as well. But we'll start with the Kingston Town Classic itself, the Group 1 over 1,800 metres. KC was the victor. Terry Leighton, I'll start with you. What was your thoughts on the race overall?
I don't think it'll go down as a Kingston Town Classic. Excuse the pun, Peter. But credit where credit's due. I thought one of the greatest training performances of the race was probably to bring Gaylord Chop across the country as a 9, 8, 10-year-old. You probably know, 9-year-old. From a wide gate, get to the top and run the race that he did. In saying that, they went very slowly, and it was always going to be set up for those horses that were either on the pace or on the rail just behind them. For me, I didn't take much from the race, apart from the fact that I thought the run of and the horse that'll win the Cox Stakes and probably the Perth Cup, even if it has to carry 59, will be Regal Power. I thought it was huge with the big weight coming from the back. Aesthetically, nothing else made ground or looked anywhere near as sharp as he did. So I think from the race, even though it's a very boring and quite obvious statement, he's the one to follow going forward, and I'd be pretty happy taking the shorts about him in the upcoming two features, I reckon.
Yeah, it really does look the run of the race from that point of view. Given no favours, was eased back towards last from the wide draw, and just flooded home with some good sections. They were sort of getting stronger and stronger as he went towards the line. So really that does look the horse to be beating in both of those features you mentioned. BJ, for yourself, KC obviously got the favours. The rail position, seemingly as the day went on, became more and more potent. You didn't want to be getting too far back off speed either. Midfield was probably as far back as you wanted to get. KC going forward, I'll raise a devil's advocate. Does KC win another race outside of fillies and mares grade?
Well, do you mean what about in her own age as well?
Yeah.
Like she's got 3-year-old options because of the set weight and penalties in the set weight races.
Going towards autumn.
During the autumn.
They're talking about Eastern States campaign, aren't they?
Yeah, I'm quite bullish about the future of KC. Neville Parnham over the last few years has managed to set up quite a successful small Melbourne operation headed by former champion jockey Mark Sestich. They've had a lot of success with horses like Malibu Style and Vital Importance, and perhaps KC, Platoon, and the WA Guineas winner War Saint can maybe head over there and they can target races. The beauty about Victoria compared to Western Australia is options that these horses have. KC and doesn't have to necessarily take on the big guns at weight for age level. They've got programming options at slightly below that, which we saw quite successful with some of our West Australian horses this spring actually. So if they're smart and they place her to advantage, I think she can do really well. Super advantaged by the way that the race panned out in the Kingston Town Classic on Saturday. The rail got really hot late in the day. Galo Chop led, finished second. KC followed. Galo Chop was the winner. Best of Days followed KC, ran third, and Superstorm followed Best of Days and ran fourth. So obviously we'll be looking for horses that were disadvantaged, i.e. Regal Power,
Big Deck.
and not forgetting Gadding. Gadding was
cover.
mighty.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what they're going to do with him. Whether they press
Yeah.
on to the Kingston Town. He's not nominated for the Perth Cup, but he was under the circumstances. He was a big run.
I'll have to go to the Cox. If he's right, they go to the Cox Stakes or the TED or whatever it's called these days.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that the horse with the most upside is the 3-year-old Superstorm, who did some freakish things considering how inexperienced, how green he is.
Yeah.
Probably should have won the Guineas, and really, if he was able to hold KC's back early, probably should have won the Kingston Town on Saturday.
He still looks like a big baby as well.
He does.
Yeah.
Put Pike on him and he probably wins the Kingston Town.
Yeah.
He could be the next star. Like, I mean, we've got Windstorm, fellow Cerise and White, Boom, sort of 3-year-old who unfortunately had a virus and didn't quite make it to the big races, but he looks one out of the box, and maybe Superstorm's level pegging with him now.
What are we doing with the Tuscan Queen, beaten favourite?
Oh, I'm going to forgive. I mean, I made it pretty clear pre-race that I thought she was just about a good thing, and the fact that KC won the race, I don't think that makes it a bad statement. Her runs were all better than KC's leading up. KC did knock her off, I think, over the 1400 a few starts back, but she had no cover and gave KC the card up into the race. So I would be surprised if, well, she definitely won't have another run this campaign, but I dare say that this Tuscan Queen wasn't at her best on the day, as can happen, Peter.
To my eye, she trained off.
Yeah, I think so.
Before the race, so she certainly walked better in the Champion Fillies in the parade, so I almost half wanted to believe she'd still be good enough for the sake of my own futures bets, but I was...
There was a bit of that going on, wasn't there?
Exactly.
All trying to will her over the line.
And I think obviously the result, was clearly over 2 lengths of a difference between what she did there and what she did in the Burgess Queen when beaten by KC.
Just on KC before we move on, we often talk about the Kingston Town being, and like me and Beach went into it in great depth about it being a major race for the 3-year-olds, and it really is. But the big question mark going forward, and I know you've got some big question marks on KC going forward, is how is she now going to handle going from being a 78 rater, getting all these favours as a 3-year-old in a race like the Kingston Town, to being, I think she's 102 now.
102,
she has to carry bigger weights against the bigger fish and consistently. Can horses elevate to that level where they aren't given such a massive allowance in Kingston Town? So we saw Plain God do it years ago, won a Kingston as a 3-year-old, next year as a 4-year-old. I think it's the only horse ever to do so. Not many can do it, so I'm not sure. It'll be interesting to watch in time.
All right, well...
Just one more thing, Pete. The only other horse from a futures point of view, funnily enough, is another Cerise and White galloper, was a horse called Mississippi Delta. Didn't mind her run on in the Kingston Town on Saturday. She will be the weighted horse come Perth Cup Day. I imagine Regal Power and Star Exhibit will head the weights, probably about 59, 58.5 respectively, and then from my calculations right at this point in time, Mississippi Delta gets into the Perth Cup 54.5. Was massive in defeat in last year's Perth Cup. She might be the one who has the talent and the weight to take it up to a horse like Regal Power. Looked
outstanding on Saturday as well. That horse is in cherry ripe condition. We have to mention the winner of race 2, This'll Test You, or This'll Test Ya. Second start. Punting form had as the best of the day performance overall, and visually looked like it was having a barrier trial. Completely decimated that field by 6.8 lengths, and yes, you can make the case that didn't probably beat too much in terms of what was in the field, but it was more just the way that it did it, and also the figures it produced on the day. What happens now with this horse?
Yeah, well, I mean, the eye suggested that it was machine-like, really. And then the figures that you quoted it, and the other figures that have been bandied around all back up what we saw on the day. You'd be able to tell us from a yard point of view. From my understanding, this horse was a very troubled youngster, very headstrong. They thought that its future was quite bleak, actually, because it was quite a dangerous young horse. From my understanding, it settled down quite a lot, and obviously Adam Durant, couldn't be in better hands. But its Bunbury maiden win was dominant, and then she went to a whole nother level on Saturday. So, from the yard point of view, Pete, like what sort of horse is she, and what can you tell us? Because Adam Durant, our champion trainer in West Australia, I heard him say on Monday that he couldn't sleep Friday night, just making sure that all the boxes have been ticked with this. He was so excited by this filly.
Just a pure athlete. There's no other way to describe it. Not an especially big horse, but just is perfectly put together from that conformational point of view in terms of, just the size and the muscle shape and all that sort of thing. So I think they also might have had a few issues with its legs early on as well. So, but I mean, listening to Adam Durant declaring it as the best sprinter he's ever trained is something pretty special. But, hopefully we get to see more of her going forward, and she doesn't end up vanishing from our shores too soon.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they're going to keep her in her grade for her next start. Yep. Maybe longevity, maybe that leg issues that you spoke about, maybe the longevity might be an issue with this particular 4-year-old. So they might be looking to ramp up her programming with her, and maybe even give her some really serious and significant tests during the new year, which will be exciting.
Absolutely. Probably look at selling her as well, I reckon, if she's got leg issues and she's worth what she currently is. So, unfortunately, as much as we don't want to see that.
And look, Terry, we have to touch on Santa Brianna. Lovely display of tipping by yourself there on the preview and throughout the week on the 1-1 podcast. But
you were on too, Peter.
I was, yeah.
Share the glory.
Yeah.
How did you feel about the 500?
It was an interesting race, but I guess as the field bunched up, I got a little bit more confident with that horse. I thought Massimo was probably given all favours initially, but then not finding the front really just cruelled its chances. And then as War Saint slowed down coming into the corner, that really disadvantaged Massimo and gave Santa Brianna a horse with a bit more momentum the chance to strike late. But overall, a very good figure recorded by that horse.
Yeah, if you watch the replay late, and I was telling a few people on course, you can see Pike shaking his head as he's going across the line. So I think he was a little bit disappointed. I don't know who he was disappointed in exactly. I think once War Saint missed the kick like that, it probably would have been beneficial to both himself and Massimo to probably take a sit on the back of Massimo. But in saying that, you've just won a Guineas when leading, so you probably don't want to change up the tactics. It's a difficult one, but the money that came for Laverod again, I don't completely understand that. I can't see how you can possibly think a horse the way it's gone in its last couple. I better be careful how I word this. I couldn't have seen Carberry in any circumstances outriding Pike, and probably what looks to be a slightly inferior horse. So that money
but wouldn't
again.
Wouldn't they have just thought natural improvement, second up, having stretched Massimo?
They might have done.
1400. You can see why they thought that he was the horse that was going to perhaps turn the tables.
Yeah, I guess so.
But I wasn't in that camp. I'm number one ticket holder of the Massimo fan club and was licking my wounds when Santa Brianna got over the top of him late. He lost no admirers for me. I don't think Pike got the tactics 100% right in that, but he's a class horse and he lifted. He looked like he was still going to get the job done, but he's done a massive job.
She would have won the Kingston as well. Santa Brianna.
Yes.
I said it on the day. You made a massive mistake because 1400 was too short for her. Her last run was at the mile over the champions in the Champions Fillies. She would have gone better over the 1800, and with the same run as KC, she would have won a Group 1. They've made a massive mistake not paying up, and Superstorm wouldn't have been in the race because she would have got the final spot over Superstorm, and she would have won a Group 1. And I can say that because this isn't actually going to hain, so we're not going to see it again, so I can just say it over. So I've been very bullish about this for the last couple of weeks.
I will say that... Again, last season we had an absolutely outstanding crop of 3-year-olds. Obviously headed by Arcadia Queen, but those horses have gone on to be like your Flirtinis, your Valerodes, your Lady Cosmologies.
Velvet King.
Really exciting, and we've got some quality again. I suspect Santa Brianna's all class. Massimo's a very, very good horse. He'll be running in some big races next year. I really like Labour Rod as a horse with time, and War Saint obviously is the WA Guineas winner. So we had 5 3-year-olds in the Kingston Town. We had those 4 3-year-olds compete in the Listia Classic. So I think the future's looking bright from that point of view as well.
We'll just have a quick word on the Celt.
Celebration. Best of the day.
Outstanding.
Loved it.
It's so good.
I'd actually given it a little bit of a rap in a few of the 4,000-5,000 broadcasts I did last week, and I didn't have a cent on myself.
I overbet, especially when the price was sitting around $40 to $45.
I didn't actually know what the late price was, and I didn't want to know either. So
I saw Pete post races.
Oh my god,
very excited.
I was dirty because I'd given that a little bit of a rap, but love the celebration nonetheless, Pete.
And quick mention to Anne King, who does a very good job with the horses, but also the jock, Clint Johnston Porter. Not many riders have had as much bad luck as he has over probably the last 2 years. He's had some nasty falls and some serious back and neck injuries, I believe. He's just starting to get his groove back at the moment, and that ride on the Celt was a peach. So, and he's going to ride a heap of winners moving forward. Good young rider.
Talented.
Yeah.
All right, one horse to follow. Can we find anything other than Regal Power going out of this meeting? Mississippi Delta is the second stringer to that.
I guess Beautiful Mind she won the feature Fillies and Mares race over 1400. Might not have looked as impressive as perhaps we had envisaged. I think she's going to be better over a mile and then better over 1800 again. She's a mare with a really bright future in a good stable.
Ashley Maley, the stable, all of them. Just follow.
Ready about to
100%,
click back in the gear.
When one or two of them get rolling, and on the Sunday a few of them got rolling as well, his whole stable just gets going. So it's about to be Maley December. I think you might find.
Yeah, that's a good call. And also a horse called Coming Around ran in the Thistle Testure race.
Yep.
Now, Coming Around, formerly trained by Raquel Williams. I'm not sure why it's with Grant and Alana Williams at the moment, but it's in the Premier Camp. Real nice pipe opener at Ascot first up on Saturday. He's a horse.
It'll win 3 in a row.
Yeah,
when it wins its first race,
he's a horse with a lot of
it'll win
talent.
3 in a row.
Schnicked back to last, had no favours at all in that race. Okay.
Pike will go on Saturday week and it'll win, no matter what it's in.
Yep. Very good. That's the end of part one. We'll be back with part two in a second, and we'll talk about WA racing.